Good morning. Thank you so much for being willing to get out of your beds this morning and come join me today. This month we're talking about peace. And on the first episode, we talked about the self and how peace starts with the self and your connection with the divine. But most of us live in families. And you guys are so lucky to live in my family. So I guess you didn't have much of a choice to come today. But I'm really, really grateful that you are here. So I'd like to have you both introduce yourselves, and then we'll talk about our family and see how it feels on camera.
Okay, I guess I can go first. My name is Patrick. I'm 20 years old. I have lived for most of my life in Utah, save a few years in Maryland on the East Coast, as well as a short tenure in Russia, serving in LDS mission. Besides that, I like to do a lot of different things. I like to draw and read and write and watch films, as well as basically anything outdoors.
Nice.
So,
And you just started to pick up the piano once you were in that, weren't you in like quarantine for like months?
Yeah. When COVID-19 kind of hit Russia, we were forced into quarantine for probably 6 months. And so I taught myself to play the piano.
You borrowed it from the church, right?
Yeah, I mean, they weren't using it, so...
And you asked permission, so we're good.
Yeah.
Thank you. How about you?
I'm Rachel. I am 16 years old. I'm a sophomore. I play sports. I play lacrosse, and I do cross country, I guess. I just like, I guess, hanging out with my friends and hanging out.
You play the piano too.
Play the piano.
Kind of taught yourself after quitting the 6 a.m. lessons that you hated.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. So I would like to do a little math today. Hope you guys are okay with that, since it's kind of a school day. There are so many equations in the social science world that sometimes we take for granted. And if you think about chemistry, which you actually like, right? I don't know how you like chemistry, but you like chemistry, which I'm really amazed. I didn't get it from me. Do you like any kind of sciences?
No. Not really.
You got it from me. I mean, I do have, I do like them, but I'm not the best at it. Here's the thing that I think is interesting. As I was thinking about the reason that our family seems to function okay, even though there are how many siblings?
10. Well, 10.
10, yeah. And we mostly have a lot of really good times. I think part of the reason that it works is because we have worked on creating a team. We work together, you do dishes, you do floor, whatever it is, we each have a team mentality. It's not just a parent sitting on the couch watching TV while you guys do the chores, or the other way, like it's in some places. So that's one thing I think I have noticed. We'll talk about 3 things today. And the other thing I've noticed that there's a lot of love. And we have a lot of fun. We miss each other all the time. And then the third thing I want to mention, and I'd love to have you guys comment on this in a moment, is gratitude. Knowing that we are so grateful for each other. And even now with COVID and stuff, we can still have that love bond, and we can have the constant gratitude and the teamwork. So let's start with teamwork. What crazy stories can you tell me? And it's okay if you do free confessions, which is something we do at home. You'll be all officially recorded, but that's okay. You'll be forgiven.
I don't know. One thing we do with teamwork is like you said, we all do our chores together. And along with that, we all just like spontaneously have dance parties while doing our chores. I think that's really bonding.
Yeah, I like those.
Yeah. For a lot of my life, I've had to share a room with my brothers, both older and younger than me. And so it has kind of been a bonding experience as well to try to keep the room intact, which is hard when you have 4 boys living in one room. But having to work together to make sure it's clean and all our stuff is put away and that's presentable living space,
And what number brother are you?
I'm number 7 of 8.
Hey, brothers, how about you? What's your placement in the family?
9 of 10 kids.
So you're a big sister and a little sister.
Yeah. oldest sister and second youngest.
Yeah, so we have 8 sons and 2 wonderful little girls. Not so little, because you're taller than me this week. You're not allowed to do that. That is so not good. I'm getting shorter. Okay, so some of the things I remember, I don't know if you remember as a little kid, when your older brothers were teenagers, they just hated to be hanging out with the brothers and the little kids, and how embarrassing. So do you remember what we implemented on Saturdays after the big chore day?
Yeah.
Forced Fletcher family fun.
Right. It's so funny because it was forced for a few years, kind of. And then eventually now we have this 30-year-old brother that shows up. Have you seen in the family text? Hey, what are we doing for family fun today? He's 30. He lives on his own. And you have, how many brothers married?
3.
Just trying to remember. It's like, is he married yet?
3. So we have 3 brothers, 2 grandbabies, 2.5. And you've seen how often they are at home doing the family fun.
Yeah.
Right? Let's see what else. What other funny, silly ideas do we have? Oh. So let's talk about what happens with conflict. Because when there is happiness, the happiness, I think, is our anchoring. But there are times that you can't just be party all the time, even though we do a pretty good job partying all the time. What happens when the ground shifts? I'm going to start with a small story. We'll get to a bigger one in a moment. What happened last night?
I got home past curfew, and I had a broken window on my car.
Nice. You still haven't done the confession of how it broke, but that's okay. You don't have to do it on camera. But how did you feel about that? How do you feel about coming home late?
I don't know. I was out having fun, and I totally just spaced getting home. And when I got home, I was like, kind of felt bad, I guess. I don't know the exact thing. I just didn't want to be in trouble, I guess.
Yeah.
So I didn't know how to feel about what to say to you guys or whatever.
Yeah, so there are moments of lack of peace. And I was pretty frustrated with you because Dad was sick and we were trying to take care of him. But you felt that at the end of the day, there was love involved, right?
Yes.
You probably won't be driving your car for a while until you pay for that window. But there's that part of the love of growing into an adult, having to be responsible. How about you, Patrick? What big lessons did you learn in high school that had the combination of lack of peace, but at the same time being loved?
I remember I had a really hard time accepting some of the rules around the house. I thought, this is stupid. They're just trying to control me. Like, who are these people anyway?
They only feed me.
Yeah. And there was definitely a level of high expectation that I felt from you guys, and that in a way turned into a resentment. Mm-hmm. But over time, I kind of came to realize that everything you were doing was for me, that you had these rules not to try to control me, but because you knew that's how I would best perform in my life. You wanted to be home at a certain time, not because you wanted to stop me from having fun with my friends, but because you wanted me to be safe and you wanted to know where I was. And so just kind of realizing that all the rules that you had set up and all of the expectations you had came from a place of love for me.
I never thought I would hear this. This is great. And I have it recorded. Thank you. Thank you. But I think all of us have gone through that. I grew up with also 10 in my family. And we had our rules were even more strict because I grew up in Guatemala, far away, and not the safest country on earth. And my parents had 8 daughters. So they had to be so strict that we actually went to private Catholic all-girls schools with a uniform. So you think it's bad they had to wear a uniform for a couple of years. But there were boys in your school. Right, so there's rules that were, or the situations that were annoying to me, probably kept me safe, right? So I'm glad that you brought that up. I like to bring up a fairly recent incident that we actually will be talking about in detail on the next week, or in a couple of weeks. And it has to do with your little sister. and how just tell a little background. You know the story, but my audience doesn't. I was at the end of traveling to 12 different countries for my nonprofit that you guys know about, doing a lot of research on how to help populations that struggle into becoming a very financially stable and socially stable society. So I was literally all over the world, every continent but Antarctica. I don't think I needed to go there. I don't do cold. Anyway, so I was there, and at the end of those 12, I had taken little sister, little Rose, with me, as you know, and we went to Australia to do my last training, and we had a car accident in a rural area, and I love Aussies. They are the best people. I even like kangaroos. They kept jumping in front of our car and everything. But the one thing that I did not like is like something to do with the rules you were talking about. Here I am driving on the wrong side of the road, which I thought I could handle. Remember we were in England, going from London to Oxford and all over the place. And I thought, hey, I can handle this, right? And I had no problem the whole week I was there at the training. And we were on our way to get a book signing for an acrobat that Rosie really wanted to get. Anyway, the thing that I didn't like is that the road was narrow and there were no lines. There were no signs. It was just rural Australia. In a narrow road anywhere else in the world that I have been, you just turn as wide as you want to because it looks like a one-way road. Right? Yeah. Say right, because I still feel really bad about this. Anyway, long story short, I hit a truck that was coming the other direction. It was a utility truck, not a semi, but somewhere in between that and a pickup truck. And we shouldn't be alive. I've heard of a neighbor that had friends that had the same exact accident in a similar place, and they were all gone. So we're so grateful. Again, the love and the gratitude and the peace. But I want to hear your side of the story. You were in Russia. You were in Utah pretty much by yourself. Dad traveled 7 times back and forth in 3 months to Australia. And you traveled a couple of times, but you were on your own. So tell me about what the peace? Did you feel peace? How about the love and the gratitude and all the anchoring of our family? Did that come in handy? And of course, you were all the way to Australia, in Russia. And you were the first one to see, because we were on the phone when she was being wheeled into the operating room. And you could see her on video coming out. So it's okay. I'm cracking up right here, so it's okay. You tell me how you felt.
So at first, when I was actually driving home, the first time on the freeway, when we got the phone call that...
With Dad next to you, right?
With Dad, yeah, of course, yeah.
What?
With Dad on... Dad got the call that you had just gotten in an accident. And my first time on the freeway, I got freaked out. I was like, I'm going to kill me and my dad and my mom and my sister, all going to, die from a car accident. And it was really scary. And I got home, and we called all our family, and we just, we told everyone what happened. And I just remember being, just sitting at home thinking, I don't know, my little sister, she's my best friend, I don't know what's going to happen to her if, I don't know what's going to happen if she's gone. And for a while there, Dad, as you said, was traveling back and forth to Australia to help. And it was just me and my older brother, Grant, and we were just at home. And I remember one week, my older brother and sister-in-law, Maddie and Reed, they came and they just stayed with us and took care of us for a bit. And I just remember being so grateful for that. Took me to school, taught me how to drive a little bit more.
So parents came in handy.
Yeah.
When it's convenient.
Yeah, exactly. And I just remember being really, really grateful for them and for them just being there. They didn't even have to do anything special. Just the fact that I knew that they were there for me and they loved me and they'd be there no matter what was really, really created peace, I guess you could say.
So in a way, I think you connected to a higher power. And I know you're very connected to God. I know that you believe that there's somebody out there that loves you. And I think that's at the core of being at peace. And we talked about this on the first episode. So you knew that there was a God that loved you. You also knew that you had parents that loved you, even though you couldn't see them. And the next best thing was makeshift parents that still loved you, right? And gave you that peace and connection to handle a bigger world with people that had bigger experience than you. Were you driving the 15-passenger van?
I don't remember. I think it was Dad's new Land Rover.
Nah. White man's Jeep, we call it. All right. How about you, Patrick? Oh, anything else you wanted to share about it?
I don't think so, no.
And you survived. I mean, you came and you were a light to us when you came to visit several times.
Yeah.
That was so helpful.
So yeah, I remember when I found out about it very vividly. It was a Saturday, I believe, and usually we would clean the church building where we were serving. So I was living in a city called Tula, in the south of Moscow in Russia. And we were basically in charge of the church there because there were very few members of the church that we were serving. And so we were cleaning the branch building, and I just saw that I was getting a Skype call from Dad. And I just thought it was so strange that he would call me on a Saturday because we were usually only allowed to communicate on Mondays.
And you called us.
Yeah.
It wasn't the other way. Yeah.
And so immediately my heart kind of sank because I thought, well, something must have happened.
Yeah.
And so I went into the office, kind of to the side, away from where my companion was, and so I could talk to Dad. And he told me what had happened and that he was going to fly down to Australia. And I kind of sat there for a few minutes after we'd hung up, just thinking about it. And it was it was an interesting kind of feeling because I was scared and I was really worried, but at the same time, I had this overwhelming feeling that I didn't really have to worry. You know, I wanted to be there because, of course, I love my little sister, and I wanted to be there with my family. But I knew that things were going to be all right. Everything was going to work out. I don't know how, but I just had this overwhelming feeling of peace. And I didn't really want to tell anybody what had happened. I'm someone who doesn't really enjoy other people's pity. Yeah. I don't like when people feel sorry for me. And so I just kind of kept quiet about it. And I didn't really say anything to my companion or any of the elders in our district that we were around. And so I kind of felt very alone. And I remember there was a senior couple, this old pair who had retired and all their children had moved away. And I think one of them was friends with you on Facebook. And they would come and they would show me posts of what was going on, and they would sorry, I don't want my voice to crack. They would keep me updated and they would talk with me, and it was basically like having grandparents there. And I remember this whole event lasted for 7 months, of course. And I remember we had this conference, our Christmas conference, where all of the volunteers across the whole area would come into Moscow. We had this 2-day conference where we would do Christmas things. We'd play games and sing together. And this senior couple, Sister Dotson was her name, she brought me a gift. She went to a bunch of stores and got all sorts of snacks and things, and so like I mean, a Christmas sweater.
Oh.
And the things, they didn't really mean anything, but just the thought that she had thought of me specifically, that I was someone who needed to be reached out to. It was really special.
So there again, the peace that you felt came from love.
Yeah.
Because you loved out towards your little sister, right? And you received love from these grandparents, the makeshift grandparents, and eventually I'm sure your companions were able to be comforting.
Yeah.
It's been a difficult year, but we'll talk about it in the last of the monthly podcasts, and there are a lot of lessons that we learned, and also I would say, I don't know if you agree with me, but it has even bonded our family more than we have ever been. So grateful for Zoom calls and technology. We talked so much. We have at the time you also had a brother in Washington State on his mission. So it was interesting to see how many time zones we can get and still talk to each other. That was kind of fun. So I am you guys know this because you see me doing homework, and I say, Mom gets A's, you guys can get A's, because I have a full-time job of mothering. So I study family science and psychology, and I am a really huge fan of international development, which I just do on the side. You guys know that because you came to Guatemala with me last year, and I hope you're coming next year.
Hopefully.
Have fun in Guatemala with me to go serve the Mayans and learn and teach. Okay, so one of the terms that I really like in family science is called a family crucible. Do you guys know what that word means?
Mm-hmm.
How would you explain it?
Kind of like a period of conflict, but also, it's hard to explain, like something that forms through intense pressure.
Yes, very much. Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's what it means, to have a massive trial that forms you into a better family, or it can break you. I like to believe that at least in our last massive trial, it formed us into a more united, more loving, more appreciative, and grateful family, right? We're so grateful for each other. And but it also brings the idea of injury. Of course, in this case, it was a real injury. She had her skull broken. You saw it fresh from here all the way to here, and her skull had to be removed for a while so that the brain could expand and contract and whatever. But there is emotional injury that happens in families. It's hard to believe sometimes, because when we have days like today, we're thinking, oh no, families are perfect. But you know that families aren't perfect, right? There are plenty of times that we as parents are trying to guess as we go what we're supposed to be doing. And like you were saying, in high school, you probably should have hated us, because you have to get A's, and you have to clean your room, and you have to get a job, and I could have been, I guess informally people call it tough love. I don't like the term, because love is always kind and always gentle and always good. But it feels like a tough thing when your mother says, can't drive your car until you pay for that injury to your car that happened because of your coming home late. And we'll talk about that when we get home. But it's that kind of thing, that because as an adult, you have to be responsible for your own life. And it would be nice to just have your parents take care of you for the rest of your life, but it isn't nice. It just doesn't allow you to grow. So for a moment here, I would like to address the idea of injured families. I wouldn't like to say broken, because that implies that you can never fix it, and if you fix it and you glue it together, there's still a scar. But how about an injury, like your legs? Tell me about your legs for a second, because that's causing you lack of peace.
Yeah. So I do lacrosse and cross country, as I said, and I just overused my legs, my shins especially, with bad shoes, which caused me to get stress fractures in both of my shins. I've been out for 2 months, and maybe might have something called compartment syndrome.
We'll find out at 1:30.
Well, yeah,
you have an appointment today.
Find out soon to see if I can even continue playing at all.
So how does that make you feel? I mean, you went to a scholarship to college playing lacrosse, not knowing that it could be fixed or not. How do you feel inside?
I mean, lacrosse is my motivation for a lot of things. If I want to do my homework, I'll say, I'll do this much homework and I'll go play lacrosse. Or I'll do this much of cleaning my room and then I'll go for a run. Yeah. And for the past 2 months almost, I haven't been able to do that. I have to sit down and I have to do my homework, and my motivation is gone because, one, I can't go do lacrosse or running, and also with the COVID restrictions, I can't just go hang out with my friends either. So I've lost a lot of my motivation because of that, because of my injury, I guess.
And the thing about life, and you guys will find out soon enough as you get older and older, there are things in life that come unexpected. Sometimes there are illnesses in the family that cause a lot of strain. So it's that feeling injured. And I explained this on the first episode, but there are things that can be done. And there, if you think about a pyramid shape, you know, there are so many layers to that pyramid that sometimes we only focus on the injury and the thing that is wrong, and we forget that there are so many things that can help it. We'll talk about that in our last episode this month with Rose, and what those pieces were for us to be able to not just fix the injury, but have the whole system still be more intact, or at least recover from an injury. So there's a theory called family systems theory. And that has to do with you as an individual, you're not by yourself. As much as people think that they are just by themselves, they're not. You know, what you do affects what she does. If Dad chooses not to earn a living now, that affects all of us, right? If I choose to say, I'm so sick of cooking. I sure learned when I was 8 years old, and I've been doing it for a long time. I just want to be done with the cooking. And you guys help. But imagine there isn't a mother to control the nutrition and the food and the groceries and things that seem fairly unimportant, right? So you're also a lacrosse player.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you feel, what does your family have to do with your success as a second team All-State defender? What was the cool title that you got? Is that it?
Yeah.
What does the family system have to do with it?
I guess it was just nice to know that I always had people supporting me. And my older brothers also played lacrosse, and I could learn from them and have them practice with me. And it was nice to always know that my dad was coming to my games, to be there on the sidelines.
And Mom.
I think, yeah, and Mom. But I'm pretty sure Dad didn't miss maybe just one game my whole high school career.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that was very special to know that he was always going to be there,
Yes.
watching me and supporting me.
Yeah. Even though at the time in life you were thinking, oh, my dad is so annoying. He's putting too many rules on me. But as a CEO of a company and extremely busy and traveling like crazy, he made sure, did you know that he made sure to travel around your games to make sure that he didn't miss?
Yeah.
So it took that system of support. And somebody had to pay for those huge fees, right?
Yeah.
And the very expensive stick. And so that's the thing that sometimes we forget as a family. If we don't behave as a team, we become enemies. And it's Mom and Dad against Patrick. There's too many rules. And Mom and Dad against Rachel with her new Jeep that I had to tease you about it. Okay, so there was a time, lots of fun times that we've done team things. But we were just remembering our Christmas at Disneyland. As when you guys were little, it got to be one of those, Christmas was such a huge undertaking because there are so many little kids and they all want different things. So from the beginning, I said to my husband, and I grew up in a family that Christmas meant Christmas. It had nothing to do with presents. I didn't know that was a thing. We ate dinner together. We sang carols. We visited neighbors. We ate tamales at midnight. That was the best. Firecrackers all over town. So that was my Christmas, and it was warm. And all of a sudden, I get married, and I start in this family that Grammy, your father's mother, brilliant at presents. I said to Russ, you go buy presents. I don't know what that even means. Right, so it evolved in over the years, and we ended up deciding on our ultimate Christmas, I think, has become experiences that create memories and create a family team. Tell me about that time at Disneyland, that train that we formed and all that stuff. You got to tell me some story, because I thought it was cool.
It was really fun. We would have somebody waiting in line for a certain ride, and then somebody else running to get fast passes for the next ride we wanted to go on. And then they would come and meet us back there. So it was kind of like we were always planning ahead and working together to make sure we got everywhere we needed to be. And then I remember it was really packed that year that we went. There's so many people there.
I think it reached capacity.
It was Christmas Day. That's probably why.
Probably. And so we would hold hands.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah. We would hold hands as we were going through crowds and as we were going places so we wouldn't lose each other. because we had some little kids and we didn't want them to get lost in Disneyland by themselves.
Yep.
And I remember there's this one instance where we were crossing this kind of street to go to a different area of the park. And we were all holding hands, you know, going through the crowd.
It was dark by then, right?
No, at least this one was still during the day. And it was really funny because there was this lady there that was trying to go the opposite direction. And I don't know what she thought we were doing. Maybe she thought we were just like kids trying to mess with people. But she saw our hand holding and she got super mad. So she like grabbed our wrists and pulled our hands apart so that she could get through. And it was just really funny.
Because there are like 15 people in that line.
Yeah.
I was like, just let me cross. That's fun. What memories do you have from that?
At one point, I don't remember if this was the same Disneyland experience, but we elected, I guess, captains. Maddie was a captain, and
Who's Maddie?
Reed's wife.
Your beautiful sister-in-law.
Yeah, my sister-in-law. Maddie was a captain, and Stuart was like the brigadier general. Is
Of
what
course.
we called him.
He's a general.
Yeah, and they would. I guess they kind of organized everything because Maddie's been there all the time with her family, and it was just kind of like a fun follow them around, see what they think we should do type of thing. Just go with the whatever is working out, I guess. Just
Yeah.
fun.
And Disneyland is such a fun place to think about, and we've gone many times. Because did you dance? Did you perform at Disneyland, or was it just your brothers?
Scotty did.
You did, Scotty and
Long time ago.
Stuart, and you're like, you're not admitting to ballroom now that you're an athlete. You did dance.
I did, yeah.
You were even in theater.
It's true.
You're like, what? No. We have evidence. Anyway, so I think that was such an interesting thing to see our skills. You know, Dad, of course, got to pay for it. That was his incredible skill. You know, and Maddie was an expert, and Stuart is a good organizer. And then you guys were all taking turns getting into lines, and then we all decided to, instead of just getting the best out of the park, we made the best out of our bonding experience. We went through every ride together, little kids and older kids, which was really powerful.
Do you remember the Mad Hatter dance party?
Dance party. That's what I was just thinking of.
I hope I filmed it. It's
Some
probably
random
Facebook.
people filmed it that we didn't even know.
Oh, it was Rose's birthday, because Rose's birthday is on the 30th.
Mm-hmm.
So we were doing the whole crazy dance thing that night, and they thought you guys were a professional dance troupe. So we had a whole audience. Remember that?
Yeah.
All those years of ballroom for most of you really paid off. So the reason I wanted to bring in the sugar before we bring out the lemon, I want you to tell me about your childhood, all the bullying times, because I've seen both of you in Time Out a lot. I was there. I just didn't choose to film it and put it on Facebook. You're like, what? Me? Well, you're looking at your brother. Huh?
I mean, growing up is hard because you're trying to find out who you are, and especially with siblings. And for me, both siblings on either side of me were very different. And especially with the sibling right younger than me, we have very strong personalities that conflict each other. And so we were fighting all the time.
We'll go unnamed, Grant.
We were fighting a lot, yeah. And I think for a long time he really hated me. And I didn't hate him, I just thought he was super annoying.
It was funny to tease him.
And I think everybody kind of sees themselves as a bit of a victim, a little bit. So I remember thinking I'm not doing anything wrong, I'm teasing him because he annoys me first, so I'm in the right.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember I read this article, and it talked about personal responsibility, kind of the first point that you brought up.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading this story about this mother who was talking to her recently married daughter. And the daughter was complaining to her about her husband. And she's like, we just fight all the time, and he does all these things that bother me, and I don't know what to do. And so the mother, what she does is she gets a piece of paper, and she folds in half. And on one half, she says, okay, write down on this half of the paper everything your husband does that annoys you. And then on the other half, write how you respond to everything that he does, to all those things that you wrote in the first half. And so she filled it out, and the mother took the paper, ripped off the part with the husband, and threw it away. and gave her the half of the things that she does. He said, okay, work on this.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's absolutely brilliant.
So that was a lot of help. It was like, okay, yes, he annoys me, but how do I choose to react to it? That can then egg him on to retaliate.
Right. He is an orator. Oh, that kid was Shakespeare things, you know. He was good at oration. So how did you feel about him the 2 years you were apart?
I definitely felt really guilty sometimes for the way that I treated him when we were kids. And actually, I missed him. It's kind of weird. I didn't think I was going to miss him, but he was my brother. We did fight, but we also had a lot of really fun memories together, and we had a ton of jokes between each other, and I missed him, yeah.
Playmobiles and Legos, and he played lacrosse like you did, and
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to miss him for 2 more years. He's going to be gone for almost 2 more years for his own mission.
Yeah.
So you have plenty of time to to miss each other. How about you, Rachel? Have you ever had any issues with fighting with people?
For the most part, the reason that me and Rose fight, my younger sister, is because of our clothes.
Of course, you're girls.
She would always steal my stuff. I'd get mad because she stole my stuff. I'd still hear her stuff. Then she'd just steal more, and it was just like endless cycle of us getting mad at each other for stealing each other's clothes. And not until probably like a couple months ago, quarantine probably, we both realized, why don't we just be nice to each other, and if you borrow my stuff, just give it back and we'll be fine. But we did get in a ton of trouble for being mad at each other. Still, sometimes she'll borrow something and I'll get mad at her. But
Yeah.
we both realized that it's stupid to fight. I mean, we fight about other things as well. Sometimes she's like annoying, or sometimes she like does things that I don't like or whatever. I also do the same. But recently we've just been together for so much time. She was gone in Australia for a while, which was not very fun. But we've just been stuck at home, and we've learned to just not fight, I guess, as much. We still fight sometimes, of course, but we've learned that it's better to just get over ourselves and just be friends. It's more fun for both of us. It's more meaningful. Just makes everything better when we get along.
I love it. So my intention here is to help us all understand, and something it's taken me a while to understand, that peace begins with you, with the self, and knowing that there's a connection you have to make to something higher than you. Because like a plant, you don't power yourself, you need the sun. Even a battery needs electricity. We need a bigger power than ourselves, and principles that are conducive to peace. So I'm sure you heard the song, Let There Be Peace on Earth, and let it begin with me. I'm not going to sing it. That's not my strength. I will get Grant or Rose to sing it someday. But would you have any last comments that you'd like to share about that equation we were talking about? Gratitude and love and many other things, but gratitude and love in particular, and the connection to the divine that can bring peace into a family as big and as varied as the 12 of us. We're very different. We're completely different, especially me and Dad. I'm like literally black and brown, and not even black. I mean black and white, whatever. He's white and brown. I don't know.
Rachel, you can start.
Just the way we have peace, as we said.
Just anything you wanted to share about that maybe I missed, about sharing with maybe other families that might be interested in having peace when there's injury, when there's contention, when there is a crucible you deal with. When we have had brothers that have had difficult times, and that's been very difficult. I let you still talk, but I forgot to say something. There was one of the brothers that struggled, and it wasn't you, Patrick, don't worry. Somebody that's not in the room. Wasn't you, Rachel, either. And he really struggled, and I didn't realize the repercussions until later, because I was so involved trying to keep him well and alive that one of the other kids did not learn how to tie his shoes or ride a bike because mom was so overwhelmed trying to take care of this injury. So
I think a lot of the things we've talked about today, as you said, they start with us realizing that we have something else bigger than us. We don't see the whole picture. With fighting with your siblings, you don't see their side at all, ever, most of the time. You just have to realize that in order to have peace, you have to realize that you are not always perfect.
yeah.
You can always get better and you can always improve yourself, and not blame others for your trials. I read this book last year, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I think, by like Stephen Covey.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I really liked was the circle of influence.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you blame other people and the more, you just put everything not on you, and the smaller your circle of influence becomes, the less you can control. And the more you realize things are like, I can make a best out of what I want to, even if other people are being annoying, the more influence you can have in your life, the more control you can have, and control brings peace.
I like that. So controlling other people or controlling yourself? What kind of control?
Just controlling yourself the most you can. Not
Just
controlling
checking.
other people.
I was thinking, that seems like a fun idea until it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first habit?
You can't put me on the spot like that.
You know it.
Proactive?
Yes.
Proactive?
Be proactive.
Yeah.
Good. I like that book. It's a wonderful one. Thanks.
Yeah, it's a good book.
I guess just the last thing to say is that, you're always going to have people around you.
Yeah.
And really you are accountable for how you interact with those people. I remember I was watching some videos about self-confidence, and a lot of times we kind of improperly equate our confidence to things like past achievements or personal self-worth, whereas confidence can come from realizing that you are in charge of your life. No one's going to come and save you from your life. And that you can influence the outcome and those things around you. Tenacity, realizing that failure is a part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
And then third, having a love-based motivation.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I really like that you mentioned before, as a little kid, you felt like a victim. This little brother is teasing me, I'm such a victim, or my big brother is being bossy again. I won't say who that was. The captain of your room. But when we get out of ourselves, it's not about us being injured. It's about what can we provide? What is our proactive response? One of the things that Covey says in that book that I really loved is there's a space between stimulus and response, right?
Mm-hmm.
That to me is probably the thing that changed my life the most. If you throw acid at me, yes, I probably should get mad and throw it right back. But that won't help anything. It would just make the fire bigger. And when it comes to family, it can escalate. We've had those moments. Mom gets mad, dad gets mad, all the children get mad, and next thing we know, it's like crazy, crazy, crazy. So thanks again for coming. I really, really appreciate you guys coming and taking time in your busy day to come. And I do love you, and I'm so honored that you love me back. If you want to learn more, just visit my website at peacetoday.com.